The entire stunt team said, "This jump is suicide, don't do it." Jackie Chan grabbed the pole and closed his eyes. What happened in the next 60 seconds would either make him a legend or kill him in front of 50 million viewers. It was October 15th, 1985, and Jackie Chan was standing on the roof of a 20-story building in Hong Kong, staring down at what his stunt coordinator had called the most dangerous setup in cinema history. The wind was howling at 40 miles per hour. The gap between buildings was 35 feet. And the safety equipment? There wasn't any. Jackie was filming Police Story, the movie that would define his career and nearly end his life. The scene required him to jump from one building to another while sliding down a pole covered in electrical lights. Every light bulb was real glass. Every wire was live electricity. And if he missed the landing, there was nothing between him and the concrete 20 stories below except Hong Kong's unforgiving skyline. To understand why Jackie Chan was willing to risk everything for this one shot, you need to understand what was at stake. This wasn't just another action movie. This was Jackie's chance to prove that Hong Kong cinema could compete with Hollywood blockbusters. This was his opportunity to show the world that action movies didn't need special effects or stunt doubles. They needed heart, courage, and someone crazy enough to put their life on the line for the perfect shot. The stunt team had been arguing with Jackie for 3 hours. His safety coordinator, a veteran of dozens of Hong Kong action films, had walked onto the roof that morning, taken one look at the setup, and said words that would haunt everyone present. "Jackie, I've been doing this for 20 years. I've seen men die for less dangerous stunts than this. Please, I'm begging you, don't do this jump." But Jackie wasn't just risking his own life. 50 million people across Asia would be watching Police Story in theaters. The Hong Kong film industry was depending on this movie to prove they could create spectacles that rivaled anything coming out of Hollywood. If Jackie failed, it wouldn't just destroy him. It would set back Hong Kong action cinema by decades. Jackie walked to the edge of the building and looked down. The pole stretched from his building to the next, a thin metal line suspended over 20 stories of empty air. The pole was wrapped in Christmas lights, hundreds of real glass bulbs that would shatter on impact when Jackie's body hit them. Each broken bulb would cut through his clothes, his skin, potentially his arteries. The man who had designed this death trap was Jackie's longtime stunt coordinator, a soft-spoken engineer named Wong Ming. Wong had worked with Jackie since the beginning of his career, had seen him survive impossible stunts, had watched him turn pain into poetry. But this time was different. "Jackie," Wong said, approaching him on the rooftop, "the wind speed is too high. The margin for error is 0. If you're off by even 1 foot, if the wind catches you wrong, if the pole doesn't hold your weight..." Wong didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Jackie nodded, understanding the stakes. He'd broken almost every bone in his body throughout his career. He'd fallen from buildings, crashed through glass, been set on fire, thrown from moving vehicles. But this stunt was different. This wasn't about surviving the impact. This was about precision. One mistake, one miscalculation, and Jackie Chan would fall 20 stories to his death while cameras rolled. The crew had gathered on the rooftop. Cameramen, lighting technicians, the director, the producer. 40 people whose livelihoods depended on Jackie's willingness to risk everything. They watched as Jackie examined the pole one more time, testing its stability, calculating the distance, measuring the wind speed with a piece of torn fabric. Jackie's hands were shaking slightly. Not from fear, but from adrenaline. He'd learned to read his body's signals over years of death-defying stunts. The shaking meant his reflexes were sharp, his muscles primed. But it also meant his body knew how dangerous this was going to be. "What's the backup plan?" asked one of the cameramen. Wong looked at him with exhausted eyes. "There is no backup plan. Either Jackie makes the jump or..." Wong gestured helplessly at the 20-story drop. The insurance company had refused to cover this stunt. The Hong Kong Film Commission had tried to shut down production. Jackie's own family had begged him not to attempt it. But Jackie understood something that nobody else seemed to grasp. This wasn't just about one movie or one scene. This was about proving that courage could triumph over fear, that human will could overcome impossible odds. Jackie had grown up watching Western action movies where heroes performed impossible feats through camera tricks and special effects. He'd spent his entire career trying to prove that real human beings could do incredible things if they were willing to sacrifice everything for their art. This jump represented everything he believed about cinema, about courage, about the power of human determination. The wind died down for a moment. Wong noticed immediately. "Jackie, if you're going to do this, now's the time. The wind has calmed." Jackie nodded and walked to the starting position. The crew fell silent. 50 people holding their breath, watching one man prepare to risk everything for 60 seconds of film. Jackie grabbed the pole with both hands. The metal was cold, surprisingly solid. He'd tested it earlier and found it could hold 3 times his body weight. But that was in controlled conditions, without wind, without the dynamic forces of a human body swinging through space at high speed. He looked across the gap to the other building. 35 feet. In normal circumstances, an impossible distance for a human being to jump. But Jackie wasn't jumping. He was swinging, using physics and momentum and 20 years of experience to bridge a gap that should have killed him. The cameras rolled. Jackie took a deep breath, closed his eyes for just a moment, and jumped. What happened next unfolded in slow motion for everyone watching. Jackie's hands gripped the pole as his body swung out over the 20-story drop. The Christmas lights began shattering immediately, sending glass fragments flying in every direction. Each broken bulb cut into Jackie's arms, his back, his legs. Blood began streaming down his body as he swung through the air. The pole held. Jackie's calculation had been perfect. His momentum carried him across the gap, his body cutting through the air like a human pendulum. But the landing was where everything could go wrong. One mistake, one loss of grip, and he'd fall to his death. Jackie's feet hit the opposite building, hard. The impact sent shockwaves through his entire body. He rolled, absorbing the force, but the broken glass from the Christmas lights had cut deep. Blood was everywhere. The crew rushed to the edge of the first building, shouting, trying to see if Jackie had survived. Jackie stood up slowly. His body was covered in cuts from the shattered light bulbs. His shirt was torn to shreds. Blood was running down his arms and back. But he was alive. He raised his hand toward the crew, giving them a thumbs up that would become one of the most iconic moments in action cinema history. The entire crew erupted in cheers. 40 people who had just witnessed what they thought would be Jackie Chan's death were now watching him stand triumphant on the opposite building, bloodied but victorious. But the story doesn't end there. Because Jackie Chan's willingness to risk everything for that one shot changed more than just action cinema. It changed how the world viewed Asian filmmakers, how Hollywood approached stunt work, and how audiences understood the relationship between real danger and cinematic spectacle. Wong Ming, the stunt coordinator who had begged Jackie not to attempt the jump, was the first person to reach Jackie after he landed. "Are you insane?" Wong demanded, examining Jackie's cuts. "That was the stupidest, most reckless thing I've ever seen." Jackie grinned, his face streaked with blood and sweat. "Did we get the shot?" The cameraman nodded frantically. "We got it, every second. It's incredible." Jackie's grin widened. Then it was worth it. But Jackie's definition of worth it went far beyond just getting good footage. In the weeks that followed, as Police Story premiered in theaters across Asia, that single stunt became legendary. Audiences had never seen anything like it. Here was a man who had literally bled for his art, who had risked death to create 60 seconds of perfect cinema. The jump changed Jackie's career trajectory immediately. Hollywood producers who had previously dismissed Hong Kong action films suddenly wanted to work with the man crazy enough to swing across a 20-story gap while covered in breaking glass. Police Story became the highest-grossing Hong Kong film of 1985, launching Jackie into international stardom. More importantly, the stunt changed how action sequences were conceived and executed. Jackie proved that practical effects, real danger, and human courage could create spectacles more impressive than any special effect. Directors around the world began rethinking their approach to action cinema, moving away from safe, sanitized stunt work toward more authentic, dangerous sequences. The medical report from that day revealed the full extent of what Jackie had endured. 17 cuts requiring stitches, 2 cracked ribs from the impact, a dislocated shoulder, burns from the electrical wires. Any normal person would have been hospitalized for weeks. Jackie was back on set the next morning, ready to film the next impossible stunt. Years later, when asked about the jump, Jackie would always deflect questions about his bravery. "I wasn't brave," he'd say. "I was just focused on making the best movie possible. The danger wasn't important, the story was important." But his stunt coordinator, Wong Ming, had a different perspective. Jackie didn't just risk his life that day, Wong explained in interviews. He risked his life to prove that Asian cinema could compete with anyone in the world. He took everything we'd been told about our limitations and threw it off a 20-story building. The pole that Jackie used for the jump was preserved by the production company. It now sits in a Hong Kong film museum, still bearing scorch marks from the electrical lights and dents from Jackie's grip. A small plaque beside it reads, "The day one man's courage changed cinema forever." But the real legacy of that October afternoon wasn't the stunt itself. It was what the stunt represented. Jackie Chan had faced a choice between safety and greatness, between following the rules and breaking new ground. He'd chosen greatness, chosen to risk everything for the possibility of creating something unprecedented. The footage of that jump has been seen by hundreds of millions of people worldwide. It's been studied by stunt coordinators, analyzed by physicists, and revered by action movie fans. But for Jackie, the most important reaction came from a young Hong Kong filmmaker who approached him at the Police Story premiere. "Mr. Chan," the young director said, "watching you make that jump, it made me realize that we don't have to accept limitations. We can do anything if we're willing to pay the price." Jackie smiled. "That's exactly why I jumped." The young director was John Woo, who would go on to become one of the most influential action directors in cinema history. He credits watching Jackie's death-defying stunt as the moment he realized that Hong Kong filmmakers could compete with anyone in the world. 25 years later, when Jackie received his honorary Academy Award for his contributions to cinema, he mentioned the Police Story jump in his acceptance speech. "Some people ask me if I regret the dangerous stunts," Jackie said. "I don't regret any of them. Every broken bone, every cut, every moment of fear was worth it to prove that we could tell our stories our way." The Academy erupted in applause. Here was a man who had literally bled for his art, who had risked everything to elevate action cinema to new heights. The standing ovation lasted for 5 minutes. Today, that 35-foot gap between 2 Hong Kong buildings represents more than just a dangerous stunt. It represents the distance between accepting limitations and transcending them. Jackie Chan didn't just swing across that gap. He swung across the divide between what people thought was possible and what one man's courage could achieve. When stunt coordinators today design dangerous sequences, they still reference the Police Story jump as the gold standard for combining real danger with cinematic spectacle. Film schools teach courses on Jackie's approach to action choreography. Insurance companies have rewritten their policies based on the precedent he set for acceptable risk in filmmaking. But perhaps the most fitting tribute to Jackie's courage came from Wong Ming, the stunt coordinator who had tried so desperately to talk him out of the jump. At Wong's retirement ceremony in 2010, he was asked about the most memorable moment of his career. Watching Jackie grab that pole and close his eyes, Wong said. In that moment, he wasn't just an actor attempting a stunt. He was an artist willing to die for his vision. I've never seen courage like that before or since. The entire stunt team had said, "This jump is suicide. Don't do it." Jackie Chan had grabbed the pole and closed his eyes. And in doing so, he'd proven that sometimes the most dangerous path is the only one worth taking. Because true artistry isn't about playing it safe. It's about risking everything to create something that has never existed before. And on October 15th, 1985, Jackie Chan risked everything and changed cinema forever. The immediate aftermath of the jump revealed details that the cameras couldn't capture. Jackie's hands were so cut up from gripping the pole that he couldn't hold anything for 3 days. The electrical burns on his palms left permanent scars that he carries to this day. When the medics finally reached him on the opposite building, they found glass fragments embedded so deep in his back that some couldn't be removed without surgery. But Jackie refused to go to the hospital. "We're not finished filming," he told the medical team. "We still have 10 more scenes to shoot today." The medics stared at him in disbelief. This man had just survived what should have been a fatal stunt, was bleeding from 17 different wounds, and wanted to continue working. Dr. Chen Wei-ming, the on-set medic, later described Jackie's condition in his medical report. Patient exhibited multiple lacerations, electrical burns, and signs of severe physical trauma. Recommended immediate hospitalization. Patient refused treatment and insisted on continuing work. In 30 years of emergency medicine, I have never encountered such determination in the face of serious injury. The raw footage of the jump, viewed frame by frame, reveals details that make the stunt even more incredible. Jackie's grip on the pole shifted 3 times during the swing, each shift bringing him closer to losing his hold completely. The wind caught his body mid-swing, throwing him off his planned trajectory by nearly 2 feet. If he had miscalculated his landing by those same 2 feet, he would have crashed into the side of the building instead of landing on the roof. The sound of the breaking glass was so loud that residents in nearby buildings thought a car accident had occurred 20 stories in the air. Glass fragments rained down onto the street below, forcing police to block off traffic for 6 blocks. The Hong Kong Fire Department received 47 calls about a possible explosion in the downtown area. What makes Jackie's achievement even more remarkable is what the crew discovered when they examined the pole after the stunt. 3 of the support cables had been weakened by the electrical system, worn down by heat and repetitive stress. The pole was operating at 60% of its rated strength when Jackie made his jump. If they had tested it again after his swing, it would have failed completely. Wang Ming made this discovery while disassembling the equipment the next day. Jackie jumped on a pole that was about to break, Wang revealed years later. If we had known the cables were damaged, we never would have allowed the stunt. Jackie succeeded not just because of his skill, but because of incredible luck. The insurance implications of Jackie's stunt reverberated throughout the film industry for years. His willingness to attempt stunts that insurance companies considered impossible forced a complete restructuring of how dangerous scenes were covered. New policies were written specifically to address what became known as Jackie Chan level risk. These policies required extensive safety protocols, multiple backup plans, and significantly higher premiums. Production companies worldwide began hiring stunt coordinators based on their ability to create spectacular action sequences while managing unprecedented levels of risk. The Jackie Chan standard became the benchmark for measuring both courage and recklessness in action filmmaking. Hollywood's initial reaction to the police story Jump was skeptical. American producers couldn't believe that any actor would risk their life for a single shot. When Jackie was first approached by American studios, executives demanded to see medical records proving he had actually performed his own stunts. The idea that an actor would deliberately endure real pain and genuine danger for the sake of authentic action was foreign to a system built on safety regulations and stunt doubles. Steven Spielberg, after viewing the police story footage, famously said, "What Jackie Chan does isn't acting, it's something beyond acting. He's not pretending to be in danger, he's actually in danger, and somehow he makes that danger beautiful." The cultural impact of Jackie's stunt extended far beyond cinema. In Hong Kong, October 15th became known as Courage Day among action film enthusiasts. Young stunt performers would gather on that date each year to watch the police story Jump and discuss what it meant to risk everything for your art. The Jump influenced an entire generation of Asian filmmakers who had grown up believing that Hollywood's resources and technology gave Western cinema an insurmountable advantage. Jackie proved that human courage and creativity could compete with any budget or special effect. Directors like Tsui Hark, Ringo Lam, and John Woo all cited Jackie's willingness to risk death as inspiration for their own boundary-pushing work. The technical analysis of Jackie's Jump became a case study in physics and human performance. Sports scientists studied the biomechanics of his swing to understand how the human body could survive forces that should have been lethal. The calculations revealed that Jackie experienced G-forces equivalent to a fighter pilot during aerial maneuvers. Dr. Sarah Blackwood, a biomechanics expert at Stanford University, published research based on frame-by-frame analysis of Jackie's Jump. Her study concluded that Jackie survived through perfect timing, optimal body positioning, and physical conditioning that bordered on superhuman. The psychological impact on fellow stunt performers was immediate and profound. Veterans who had considered themselves fearless began questioning their own limits. If Jackie could survive a 20-story swing through breaking glass, what other impossible stunts might actually be achievable? Jackie himself became concerned about the influence his extreme stunts were having on younger performers. He reflected, "When other people see my stunts and think they should try the same things, I feel responsible for their safety." This led Jackie to establish training programs and safety standards that remain in use today. The Jackie Chan stunt team became the most respected and safety-conscious group in Asian cinema. The final shot of Jackie standing bloodied but victorious has become one of the most iconic images in cinema history. It captures pure human triumph, a man who faced an impossible challenge and refused to accept defeat. Because the entire stunt team was right, the jump was suicide. But Jackie Chan grabbed the pole anyway, closed his eyes, and proved that sometimes impossible is just another word for unprecedented.